What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Benchwarmers. Today we're continuing our series on redrafts. Our last video was in 2015 NBA redraft, and now we're doing a 2015 NFL redraft. So without further ado, let's get to the first pick, which is the Bucks. So in the actual draft, they took Jameis Winston. That didn't end up working out too well for them, and really none of the quarterbacks in this draft were particularly good. So I'm going with a non-quarterback, and that is Danielle Hunter. He is an excellent edge rusher, and he's made the Pro Bowl. And in the last two seasons, he's had 14 and a half sacks in both of them. So those are some elite numbers for an edge rusher. And obviously, edge rushers are one of the most valued picks in the NFL draft.
At second, we have the Titans, and they actually took Marcus Mariota, who is the second quarterback off the board. But this pick didn't turn out too well, as they've already moved on to another quarterback, Ryan Tannehill. So I think they should go for another player who's already proven themselves to be very good. And I think Stephon Diggs definitely fits that bill. Get it? He's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL right now. And even though he may not have been all pro during his first few seasons, I think one reason for that is because the Vikings weren't using him to his full potential, and we're using him more as like a slot wide receiver number 2 to Thielen. But if you look at this past season, he was definitely one of the league's best receivers in terms of receiving yards and just route running in general. So I think it's a great pick.
With the third overall pick, it was kind of a lot of options you had here for the Jags. The Jags, I mean, even at that time, they weren't the best team. They had some pieces, they had some defensive pieces, and I think in increasing that defensive firepower a bit more with a pick like Marcus Peters would be really great at this spot. So I think Marcus Peters, although he isn't amazing now, I think over the past few seasons, especially his early few seasons, he was really good both as a player and in the counting stats. I think he was like a 3-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first team All Pro, and he always seemed to be in the right place at the right time to get the stats that he needed. He got like throughout his career, I think he has like 8 or 9 return interception touchdowns, which is kind of insane. And he also has like 10 forced fumbles across his career, which is a lot for a cornerback. So I mean, I think that he's always in the right position at the right time. I think he's a smart player, and I think that even now, even though his 2020 season wasn't amazing, and like there's an argument that Byron Jones right now is better than Marcus Peters, I think Marcus Peters definitely has the potential to go back to his like 2019 or 2018 form where he was All Pro.
Next up in the draft was the Raiders, who took Amari Cooper at 4th overall. And this is actually the first pick that we're just going to have them keep who they took, because Amari Cooper was an excellent player for the Oakland Raiders. Now, he's played 6 seasons in the NFL, and he's got over 1,000 yards in 5 of them, which is pretty incredible. And he also made the Pro Bowl 4 times. He's just been super consistent, never like the best receiver in the league, but very consistently top 5, top 10. So he's definitely a great pick for the Raiders.
At 5th, we have the Washington football team, and they originally took Brandon Scherff at offensive guard. And this is actually a really good pick since he made 4 Pro Bowls, and he's also recently a first-team All-Pro. So it doesn't really make much sense to pick someone else, but I'm actually going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to pick Frank Clark. And this is a really hard choice, but I just thought Frank Clark was a bit of a better player, and he could fit the Washington football team defensive scheme really well. And I know one thing that the football team has been trying to do is build up their defensive line a lot, and I think he can definitely contribute to that. I think these past 2 seasons he made the Pro Bowl, and he was part of the Chiefs winning squad that made the Super Bowl 2 years in a row, and he has 50 sacks in his career, which is really good.
With the 6th pick, we have the New York Jets. And I think one thing which, I mean, now or ever, the Jets could use is offensive line help. And having a guy like Brandon Scherff fall into your laps at number 6 is an absolute steal for them. It was honestly really hard for, Rohan to choose between Frank Clark and Brandon Scherff. And I think if you have a team like the Jets, having a guy like Brandon Scherff would just help whoever is out there, whether they would still go on to take players like Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson or not. If they took other quarterbacks, they would be a lot safer. They'd have better stats. They'd have more time because of a guy who is generally healthy and also a really good player. Just doesn't allow sacks, doesn't allow a lot of interior D linemen to get past him. And I think even though the guard position is debatable in terms of importance, I think that he is good enough that he should be taken here at 6.
Next up, we have the Chicago Bears at 7, and they took wide receiver Kevin White here. This was definitely not the best pick by them. His career hasn't really turned out very well. Wasn't on the team very long. So I have them going with a different player here, and that is an edge rusher, Zadarius Smith. Now, do remember that this is before they did trade for Khalil Mack, back when he was known as the Sack Attack in silver and black. So the Bears definitely needed an edge rusher at the time, and Zadarius Smith fits that bill perfectly. He wasn't the best in his first few years with the Ravens, but I feel like he wasn't really given an opportunity to shine as a rookie, given that he was only like a 4th overall pick. But in these last 2 seasons with the Packers, he started every single game, and he's had double-digit sacks in both seasons. So I feel like if they had given him a chance to start more earlier, he could have been an even better player by now.
And next at 8, we have the Atlanta Falcons. They originally went with a defensive end, Vic Beasley. And Vic Beasley actually had one really good season where he had 15.5 sacks, but that was his second season. And since then, he's been hovering around 5 sacks, which isn't bad, but it's not that good either. And I think they should go with a different defensive end for that reason. And that's why I'm going with Leonard Williams, even though he may not have as good as the career stats because he has like 10 less career sacks. I think if you look at his more recent performance, he's shown that he has a lot of potential because this past season on the Giants, he had 11.5 sacks and he was definitely the leader of their defense that was like young and improving. And I think he still has more potential to grow and become an all-pro or Pro Bowl player every year, which is why I think he was a better player at this spot.
With the 9th pick, the Giants originally took Eric Flowers, who's, I mean, decent, I guess, is the best you could say for his first few seasons. But I have them taking an offensive player here. I mean, I know they did have Odell at the time, and Odell was probably at the peak of his career, making crazy plays and being in the conversation for like top 3 wide receivers in the league. But I think they could have used a tight end like Darren Waller here. Darren Waller's right now is more of a recent slide up in the rankings. I think right now, if you look at the draft, he's he's currently one of the best 3 tight ends in the league. And I think that health barring, he is maybe even the best because Travis Kelce sometimes gets injured. And I mean, I think that a player like Darren Waller, who over the past season has been getting like 1,200 yards per season for a tight end, is like part of this new unprecedented wave of success that tight ends have been having in the NFL. And I think that the Giants having another offensive weapon could maybe have even lengthened Eli Manning's career a little bit.
And for the last pick in this 2015 NFL redraft, we have the Los Angeles Rams, who took Todd Gurley. Now, Todd Gurley was definitely very, very solid in his rookie season and the few seasons that followed, but he had that injury, and ever since then, he's just never been the same. So we have them going with a different player here. That's actually a defensive player, Landon Collins. Now, his numbers don't exactly fly off the page. They're not super amazing, but he does everything you could possibly want from a safety. He tackles very well, hits hard, and he's also good in coverage. And that's why he's been successful both for the Giants and for the football team. So it just makes a lot of sense for the Rams to take this former All-Pro Landon Collins. But that wraps it up for this 2015 NFL redraft. If you liked it, make sure to like. If you didn't, let us know why in the comments section below. We're going to be making more of these redrafts for both the NBA and the NFL. This is the Benchwarmers signing out. See ya.